The massive Nalaxian warship appeared without warning in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. For 6 hours, it hovered silently above the planet, while governments scrambled and civilians pointed smartphone cameras skyward. The vessel's hull gleamed with an iridescent blue-black sheen that absorbed radar signals and defied thermal imaging. When the ship finally broadcast its message, it was in perfect English, requesting a diplomatic meeting with Earth's leaders. Standard procedure, Exarch Kivron told his subordinates aboard the Nalaxian command vessel. We follow protocol, document their primitive responses, then neutralize the potential threat. The Nalaxian commander's facial tendrils twitched with anticipation. His species had risen to prominence within the Galactic Concordat, precisely because they excelled at eliminating competition before it developed. United Nations Secretary-General Maya Williams stood on the hastily assembled platform in Geneva, flanked by representatives from 17 nations. The world watched as 3 shuttlecraft descended from the main vessel. Diplomatic protocols had been established overnight, a remarkable feat of international cooperation prompted by the extraterrestrial arrival. "Welcome to Earth," Williams began, extending her hands in the universal gesture of peace. "We're honored to." The first energy blast struck 2 kilometers behind her, obliterating the Palais des Nations in a blinding flash. Before anyone could react, 12 more beams lanced downward from the Nalaxian vessel, targeting major cities across the globe. The diplomatic delegation wasn't even worth eliminating. The aliens simply ignored them as their attack commenced. Admiral Helena Chen was conducting a routine inspection of the International Space Defense Platform when the attack began. Originally designed as a shield against asteroids and space debris, the platform had been controversial since its installation 3 years prior. Now, as Chen watched mushroom clouds rise from the surface below, she made a decision that would alter humanity's future. "Connect me with all operational military satellites and defense platforms," she ordered. Authorization code Chen Delta 69. "We are at war." "Ma'am, we have 12 vessels total," her executive officer reminded her. "The aliens have at least 30 that we can detect." Chen's eyes never left the tactical display. "Then we'll have to be smarter, won't we?" Within 17 minutes, Chen had coordinated the most unlikely defensive action in human history. Military satellites from 7 formerly hostile nations synchronized their efforts under her command. The orbital defense platforms, previously aimed outward to track asteroids, swiveled toward the Nalaxian vessels and fired. The alien attackers, confident in their technological superiority, had neglected basic defensive protocols. 3 Nalaxian destroyers erupted in silent explosions before their commanders realized the supposedly helpless humans were fighting back. "Impossible," Exarch Kivron hissed as his tactical display updated. "They're pre-FTL primitives. They should be begging for mercy." Chen's makeshift fleet pressed the attack just long enough to cause genuine damage before performing a strategic withdrawal. She knew they couldn't win, not today, but they could send a message. Humanity would not go quietly. As the Nalaxian fleet regrouped behind the moon, intercepted communications revealed their confusion. The Galactic Concordat had catalogued thousands of emerging species over its 12,000-year history. None had ever managed to damage Concordat vessels during first contact. "We will return with appropriate forces," Kivron transmitted to his superiors. "The humans will be subdued within their lunar cycle." Down on the surface, amid the devastation of the first attack, humanity began to mobilize with extraordinary speed. Former enemies shared military technology. Scientists worldwide focused on a single goal. What the Nalaxians failed to understand was fundamental to human nature: They had never been more dangerous than when fighting for survival. The Concordat had just made the biggest miscalculation in its history. They expected submission. They would get innovation, adaptation, and resistance beyond anything their algorithms could predict. 6 weeks after the initial attack, Dr. Kwame Osei stood in his underground laboratory beneath Accra, surrounded by fragments of Nilaxian technology. His team had been working 20-hour days, fueled by a combination of caffeine, patriotism, and fear. The recovered pieces of alien hull material and weapons components had been distributed to research facilities across the globe, but Osei's breakthrough came from an approach no one else had tried. "We've been thinking about this backward," he told his exhausted colleagues, tapping a holographic model hovering above the workbench. "We're not trying to understand their technology, we're trying to make it understand ours." While other scientists attempted to reverse engineer alien tech using conventional approaches, Osei recognized a fundamental compatibility between quantum oscillation patterns in human experimental systems and Nilaxian power cores. By introducing human-designed frequency modulators into salvaged weapon fragments, his team created hybrid systems that generated twice the energy output using half the alien power source. The Nilaxians design everything for maximum efficiency, Osei explained to military observers. But humans optimize for resilience and adaptability. Their weapons are powerful but rigid. Ours will be unpredictable. 3 continents away, Commander Sofia Rodriguez led a different kind of innovation. The former Special Forces operator had been tasked with an impossible mission: capture an intact alien vessel. International intelligence had tracked an Nilaxian scout ship conducting regular surveillance of Earth's southern hemisphere. They're following patterns, Rodriguez noted during mission briefing. Precise, mathematical patterns. They maintain exactly the same altitude, velocity, and trajectory during each pass. They think we can't reach them. Her team of 12 operatives, former adversaries from Special Forces units worldwide, prepared for a mission with a slim chance of success. While traditional military logic would have demanded overwhelming force, Rodriguez recognized the advantage in being underestimated. "They expect us to either cower or charge straight ahead," she told her multinational team. "We'll do neither." The mission launched during what appeared to be a violent thunderstorm over the South Pacific. What the Nilaxians didn't realize was that the electromagnetic interference had been carefully engineered to mask the deployment of Rodriguez's team using experimental high-altitude insertion vehicles. As the alien scout maintained its predictable course, the humans approached not from below, where all sensors were focused, but from above, using the planet's magnetic field to mask their descent. The boarding action lasted precisely 47 seconds. The Nilaxians, confident in their technological superiority, had minimal security aboard the scout vessel. By the time they realized humans had breached their hull, Rodriguez's team had deployed targeted electromagnetic pulses that disabled the aliens without damaging the ship's critical systems. Package secured, Rodriguez transmitted as her team piloted the captured vessel to a secure facility in Antarctica. "You won't believe what we found in their database." The scout ship contained not just advanced technology, but comprehensive intelligence on Concordat species, including detailed assessments of their strengths, weaknesses, and internal political divisions. Most critically, it contained the specifications for faster-than-light travel, the technological leap that would transform humanity from planetary defenders to interstellar combatants. When the Nilaxians finally returned with their reinforcement fleet, they expected to find a weakened planet still reeling from the first attack. Instead, they encountered a transformed defensive perimeter. hybrid weapons fired from positions that hadn't existed weeks earlier. Human commanders anticipated Nilaxian formations with uncanny accuracy, having studied their tactical databases thoroughly. "Impossible," muttered Exarch Kivron as the first wave of his attack force encountered weapons that shouldn't exist on a pre-FTL world. They couldn't have developed countermeasures so quickly. But they had, because the Concordat had fundamentally misjudged what happens when you back humans into a corner. They don't just fight harder. They change the rules of the game entirely. Captain Hiroshi Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, a vessel that hadn't existed 3 months ago. Constructed from a fusion of salvaged alien components and human ingenuity, the ship bore a little resemblance to its original Nilaxian design. Where alien vessels prioritized symmetry and efficiency, the human retrofits favored adaptability and redundancy. Power conduits branched in seemingly haphazard patterns. The bridge layout itself reflected human psychology rather than alien ergonomics. "All 30 vessels report ready, Captain," his executive officer announced. Tanaka nodded, studying the tactical display. Humanity's first offensive fleet wasn't impressive by Concordat standards. 30 retrofitted ships against hundreds of established alien warships. But they had advantages the aliens couldn't imagine. "Remind all captains," Tanaka instructed, "follow the Chaos protocols. No traditional formations. No standard attack vectors." The human fleet departed Earth's defensive perimeter with a maneuver that would have horrified Concordat tactical officers, a scattered, seemingly disorganized advance that defied prediction algorithms. While Nilaxian battle doctrine relied on precise formations and calculated probabilities, Tanaka's strategy embraced controlled chaos and deliberate unpredictability. The Nilaxian defense fleet detected the approaching human vessels and arranged into textbook intercept formations. Their commanders felt confident. This primitive species had somehow managed rudimentary space combat capabilities, but they clearly lacked the experience of a species with millennia of interstellar warfare behind them. "Entering engagement range in 30 seconds, reported Tanaka's tactical officer. "Enemy vessels deploying in standard Concordat defensive array." Tanaka allowed himself a small smile. Exactly as expected. They're still fighting by the book. Execute Operation Thunderstrike. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. Instead of engaging at conventional combat distances, the human fleet performed synchronized FTL micro-jumps, a maneuver considered suicidal by Concordat standards. The precision required risked materialization inside solid matter or collision with other vessels. But the captured scout ship had revealed that Nilaxian sensors had a 3-second recalibration period after detecting an FTL exit point. 3 seconds became humanity's edge. The Defiance and 5 other vessels appeared directly amidst the Nilaxian command ships. Before the aliens could reorient their weapons, targeted strikes disabled their primary systems. Meanwhile, other human vessels executed similar jumps throughout the enemy formation, creating chaos that the Nilaxians' battle computers couldn't process fast enough. "The Zithraxi vessels are withdrawing," reported the communications officer, surprise evident in her voice. "The Diraxian support fleet is following them." Tanaka nodded grimly. As predicted, the political coalition against Earth wasn't as solid as the Nilaxians had claimed. The Zithraxi and Diraxians, already skeptical of the unprovoked attack on a developing world, seized the opportunity to disengage when they witnessed humanity's unexpected capabilities. On the Concordat flagship, Exarch Vreen watched with mounting horror as his carefully arranged fleet dissolved into disarray. The human tactics defied mathematical optimization, ignored acceptable casualty ratios, and employed technologies in ways Concordat engineers had never intended. "They're not fighting according to any known doctrine," his tactical officer reported unnecessarily. "Their attack patterns appear random, but achieve maximum disruption of our formations." Not random, Vreen corrected, comprehension dawning. Adaptive. They're rewriting their tactics in real time based on our responses. The battle ended with the Nilaxian fleet in retreat, having lost 27 vessels to humanity's 7. More significant than the material losses was the psychological impact. For the first time in generations, a Concordat force had been defeated by a supposedly inferior species. As Tanaka's fleet returned to Earth, intercepted communications revealed fractures developing throughout the Concordat coalition. 3 species had formally withdrawn from the conflict, citing concerns about unpredictable engagement parameters and unacceptable strategic variables. In military terms, they were afraid. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, they were fighting in ways that the ancient and powerful Concordat had never seen before. The Tellurian ambassador adjusted his translucent outer membrane, a sign of discomfort among his species. The ornate conference room deep within the United Nations complex in Geneva had been reinforced and rebuilt after the initial attack. Security measures, both visible and invisible, surrounded the diplomatic delegation. Outside, crowds gathered behind barricades, their faces a mixture of curiosity and hostility toward the first peaceful alien delegation to visit Earth. The Galactic Concordat extends its formal recognition of humanity as a protected developing species. The Tellurian said, his translation device rendering his harmonic speech into flawless English. This status grants Earth significant privileges within established interstellar law. Secretary General Maya Williams maintained a neutral expression, though her advisors exchanged subtle glances. The Intelligence Division had spent weeks analyzing captured Concordat legal databases. They understood exactly what protected developing species status meant, essentially a glorified reservation with technological development strictly controlled by Concordat overseers. "We appreciate the Concordat's consideration," Williams replied evenly. "Before responding to your generous offer, we'd like to better understand the events that led to our current situation." The Tellurian shifted uncomfortably. An unfortunate misunderstanding. Rogue elements within the Nilaxian command structure exceeded their authority. The Concordat deeply regrets any suffering caused. Williams nodded to her communications director. Across the room, a holographic display activated, showing footage of the initial attack from multiple angles, including orbital perspectives from military satellites. "This doesn't appear to be the action of rogue elements, Ambassador. This was a coordinated first strike authorized at the highest levels. Internal Concordat matters are complex," the Tellurian hedged. "What matters now is moving forward with appropriate protections for your people." Williams leaned forward. "We've studied your histories extensively, Ambassador. In 12,000 years, the Concordat has never offered protection to a species that successfully destroyed multiple Concordat vessels in battle. Your offer isn't about protection. It's about containment." The Tellurian's membrane flushed a pale blue, the equivalent of a human blanching. "You misunderstand our intentions." "I don't think so," Williams countered. "And neither will the rest of the Concordat when they learn the truth." Without warning, the conference room screens displayed a simple message: "Transmission complete." Williams allowed herself a small smile as the Tellurian ambassador received urgent communications from his delegation. "What have you done?" the alien demanded. "Shared the truth," Williams replied simply. While we've been having this conversation, we've transmitted comprehensive evidence of the unprovoked Nilaxian attack to every member species of the Concordat, including footage that shows Nilaxian vessels firing on civilian targets without warning or provocation. The gambit was as audacious as it was effective. Within hours, the Galactic Concordat's carefully orchestrated narrative collapsed. 3 more species, the Meridians, the Volturians, and the Ephesian Collective, formally withdrew from the coalition against Earth, citing evidence of Nilaxian deception about the conflict's origins. The Tellurian ambassador requested an emergency recess, his communications device nearly overloaded with incoming messages from his government. Williams walked calmly to the Strategic Operations Center beneath the Yulin complex, where her advisors monitored interstellar communications. The Concordat High Council is in emergency session, her intelligence director reported. The Nilaxians are facing formal censure for violation of first contact protocols. Williams nodded. And the military situation? 2 more Concordat battle groups have withdrawn from the Sol system. The Nilaxians are increasingly isolated. This was humanity's true advantage. While the aliens had expected a purely military conflict, humans instinctively understood that all warfare was ultimately political. By exploiting divisions within the Concordat and exposing the truth about the conflict's origins, Earth had accomplished diplomatically what might have taken years to achieve militarily. Prepare our counter-proposal, Williams instructed. We're not negotiating as supplicants. We're negotiating as equals. Dr. Elena Petrova stood in her laboratory beneath Moscow, surrounded by holographic simulations of Nilaxian shield harmonics. 6 months into the conflict, the global scientific community had undergone a transformation as profound as any in human history. Former competitors now collaborated daily. Theoretical physicists worked alongside practical engineers. Military researchers shared findings with civilian scientists without hesitation. The fundamental flaw in their approach is the predictability, Petrova explained to her international team. Nilaxian shields resonate at fixed frequencies. They've optimized them over centuries, but they sacrificed adaptability for efficiency. Her breakthrough came not from mimicking alien technology, but from introducing deliberate imperfections. Where Nilaxian shields maintained perfect symmetrical harmonics, Petrova's design incorporated randomized frequency shifts that appeared chaotic, but followed complex mathematical patterns recognizable only to human systems. The final tests show 63% effectiveness reduction against their weapons, she announced, sending the results to research centers worldwide. Implementation can begin immediately. Within days, shield harmonic modulators were being installed on every human vessel and defense platform. The pace of distribution would have been incomprehensible to Concordat species accustomed to carefully guarded technological advances. Humanity treated innovation as a shared resource rather than proprietary advantage. Across the Pacific, Kagawa and Singh achieved an equally revolutionary breakthrough in propulsion technology. By studying the quantum fluctuations in captured Nilaxian drives, they discovered methods to increase precision during faster-than-light transitions. Conventional Concordat navigation relies on broad-spectrum jumps with safety margins, Singh explained during the global briefing. Our approach uses narrower targeting parameters with real-time adjustments. The result was the Kagawa-Singh drive, allowing human ships to execute jumps with unprecedented accuracy. Where Nilaxian vessels required substantial distances between exit points, human ships could now materialize with precision measured in meters rather than kilometers, a tactical advantage that would prove decisive in coming battles. What most concerned Concordat observers wasn't individual breakthroughs, but the networked nature of human innovation. The Interspecies Technological Intelligence Unit, monitoring Earth communications, reported troubling findings to the Concordat High Council. The humans have established a global research network that functions with alarming efficiency, the report stated. Technological advances are shared freely across former national boundaries. Their rate of implementation exceeds anything in Concordat historical records. The implications were staggering. Historical analysis of emerging species showed predictable technological development curves spanning centuries. Humanity was compressing that timeline into months. Conservative estimates suggested Earth had advanced 3 centuries beyond pre-war projections in just half a solar year. In a secure facility beneath Geneva, the Human Advancement Coordination Center tracked these developments with growing confidence. The projected technology curve displayed on their central monitors showed humanity approaching parity with middle-tier Concordat species within months, not decades. They made a critical error in their initial assessment, noted the center's director, reviewing the latest implementation reports. They judged our technological capability at the moment of first contact, failing to account for our acceleration potential under pressure. This failure of imagination would prove the Concordat's greatest strategic error. Their species had evolved in environments where technological progress followed predictable trajectories over millennia. They had no framework for understanding a species that transformed existential threats into innovation catalysts. As the conflict entered its 7th month, the balance continued shifting. Each Nalaxian tactical adjustment prompted human counter-innovations. Each attempted Concordat strategic advantage was met with unexpected technological responses. The ancient spacefaring civilization found itself increasingly confounded by a species that treated established limitations as temporary obstacles rather than fundamental constraints. Humanity wasn't just learning to survive in an interstellar conflict. They were rewriting the rules of technological development in ways that would transform the galaxy itself. Colonel Jamal Washington surveyed the holographic display showing Proxima Centauri, humanity's first extrasolar colony. The settlement appeared vulnerable, a collection of modest habitats housing 2,000 civilians and a small military presence. Its defences looked minimal, with only a few visible orbital platforms and a handful of patrol vessels. The Nalaxians will see exactly what we want them to see, Washington told his officers gathered in the command bunker buried 200 meters beneath the colony surface. Conventional wisdom says a new colony would have limited defensive capabilities. We're counting on them believing conventional wisdom. The colony had been established with remarkable speed, leveraging the Kagawa-Sane drive's precision to transport prefabricated structures directly to the planet's surface. What the Nalaxians couldn't detect were the extensive subsurface installations and the newly commissioned Third Fleet concealed behind Proxima's intense stellar radiation. Washington's strategy relied on a profound understanding of Nalaxian psychology. Their species evolved as apex predators on a resource-scarce world, developing an instinct to eliminate vulnerable competitors before they could grow stronger. The colony presented an irresistible target, a chance to strike a psychological blow against humanity while eliminating their first foothold beyond the Sol system. Contact, announced his sensor officer, Nalaxian battle group entering the system. Configuration matches intelligence predictions. 47 combat vessels organized in standard assault formation. Washington nodded calmly. Commence Operation Solar Flare. All units maintain emission control until my command. The Nalaxian fleet approached with supreme confidence, their sensors detecting only the expected defenses. Exarch Curzon, commanding from the flagship, prepared to deliver a crushing blow that would remind the upstart humans of their proper place in the galactic order. "Begin the bombardment," Curzon ordered. "Leave nothing intact." The first Nilaxian strike hit only decoys and automated defenses. As their fleet moved closer to optimize weapon effectiveness, Washington gave the command that would change the course of the war. Execute Proxima Maneuver. 26 human vessels, including the first battleships designed entirely with human technology, performed synchronized FTL jumps, using the stellar radiation to mask their energy signatures. They emerged precisely positioned throughout the Nilaxian formation, an operation requiring navigational calculations of unprecedented complexity. The Nilaxian fleet, suddenly finding enemies within their own formation, struggled to reorient weapons designed for forward attack. Before they could adapt, human vessels unleashed targeted strikes against command and propulsion systems, disabled rather than destroyed where possible. "The flagship is isolated," reported Washington's tactical officer. "Their formation is breaking down." Washington opened a direct communication channel to the Nilaxian command vessel. "Exarch Curzon, your fleet is surrounded. Your engines are disabled. You have no retreat path. I offer you honorable surrender." The 3-day battle that strategists had predicted lasted less than 4 hours. Faced with certain defeat, Curzon made an unprecedented decision, the first Nilaxian surrender in 3 centuries of Concordat military operations. As Nilaxian crew were taken into custody, human engineers boarded the captured vessels, gaining direct access to advanced technology and tactical databases. More valuable than the ships themselves was the psychological impact throughout Concordat space. A senior member species had been decisively defeated by a civilization that barely had space-like capability months earlier. The diplomatic implications are significant, Washington noted as he reported to Earth Command. The Nilaxians derive their standing in the Concordat largely from military prestige. That prestige is now compromised. He didn't need to elaborate on what his superiors already understood. The balance of power was shifting not just militarily but politically. With each victory, humanity gained leverage in the coming negotiations. The Proxima triumph wasn't just a battle won, it was the moment when the Concordat began to truly fear what humanity might become. Washington watched as human crews secured the captured Nilaxian flagship. "Begin technological assessment immediately," he ordered. "We need to understand everything about their systems before the diplomatic teams arrive." The future of interstellar relations would be determined not just by weapons but by knowledge, and humanity was rapidly accumulating both. The Galactic Concordat High Council chamber had never witnessed such a procedural anomaly. For 12,000 years, the ancient institution had maintained rigid protocols. Yet today, the 17 senior representatives sat in uncomfortable silence as the central display showed a statistical analysis none had expected to see. Military losses exceeding sustainable thresholds, political fractures across multiple member species, and economic disruptions spreading throughout Concordat space. "We must acknowledge reality," stated the Tellurian High Counselor, breaking the silence. "The conflict with Earth cannot be resolved through conventional means." The Nilaxian representative's facial tendrils twisted in agitation. One primitive species cannot stand against the combined might of the Concordat. We simply need to commit more resources. "Resources we cannot afford to lose," countered the Meridian representative. "Their defensive capabilities increase exponentially with each engagement. Projections suggest we would need to commit 60% of our combined fleets to ensure victory." After 14 hours of debate, the High Council reached an unprecedented consensus. For the first time in its history, The Concordat would formally propose a ceasefire as the requesting party rather than the granting one. The terms acknowledged humanity as a sovereign interstellar power with rights to colonize the Sol system and nearby stars. Secretary General Maya Williams received the Concordat delegation aboard the UES Resilience, humanity's first purpose-built diplomatic vessel. The ship's design reflected Earth's new confidence, elegant yet unmistakably powerful, with defense systems visible enough to communicate strength without appearing threatening. The delegation entered the conference chamber with careful dignity, led by Grand Emissary Veltron of the Tellurians. His translucent membrane shifted through formal color patterns as he presented an ornate data crystal containing the ceasefire proposal. The Galactic Concordat extends its respect to humanity. Veltron began, utilizing the formal third-person address reserved for sovereign powers. After careful deliberation, the High Council offers terms for peaceful coexistence between our civilizations. Williams accepted the crystal with appropriate ceremony, passing it to her diplomatic advisor for immediate analysis. The room's atmospheric processors hummed quietly as humans and aliens studied each other across the polished conference table. The Concordat's gesture is appreciated. Williams responded after reviewing the key points. She maintained perfect diplomatic composure despite recognizing the proposal's patronizing undertones. The offered terms, while acknowledging human sovereignty, imposed significant restrictions on technological development and expansion. Veltron's membrane rippled expectantly. By Concordat standards, the offer was exceptionally generous to a species barely established beyond its home planet. The terms effectively elevated humanity past dozens of developing civilizations in the galactic hierarchy. Williams rose from her seat, circling the table slowly. Grand Emissary Veltron, please convey to the High Council that Earth has carefully considered their proposal. The alien delegation leaned forward imperceptibly, anticipating the customary expressions of gratitude. Ceasefire, Williams said, her voice carrying unexpected strength. What? We've only just begun. The translator devices faltered momentarily, as if struggling to process the response. Veltron's membrane blanched to pale blue, a sign of profound shock among his species. Perhaps there is a translation error, suggested another delegate hurriedly. There is no error, Williams clarified. She activated the room's central display, revealing a counter-proposal that stunned the alien representatives. Humanity accepts the principle of peaceful coexistence, but under terms befitting equal partners. The document outlined demands that would have been unthinkable months earlier. Full reparations for the unprovoked attack on Earth, trial of Nilaxian war leaders under interspecies law, and humanity's immediate admission to the Concordat as a full voting member with unrestricted development rights. Your proposal treats us as a managed species, Williams continued. Our terms recognize us as what we have proven to be, equals deserving of full galactic citizenship. The delegation departed in barely concealed disarray, rushing to report to the High Council. As the Resilience's sensors tracked their vessel's retreat, Williams turned to Admiral Chen, who had observed the exchange in silence. They'll be back, Chen noted, but with very different terms. Williams nodded. The galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. 5 years after the ceasefire negotiations, the observation deck of the Concordat High Council Tower offered a view that would have been inconceivable before the conflict. Admiral Helena Chen stood at the panoramic window, watching ships from 17 different species, navigating the complex traffic patterns above New Geneva, humanity's purpose-built diplomatic capital on an engineered orbital platform. Quite a different perspective from our first meeting, noted Tellurian High Counselor Veltron, joining her at the window. His translucent membrane displayed the subtle blue-green patterns of respectful collegiality, a far cry from the formal diplomatic colours he had worn during those tense early negotiations. Chen nodded. The view has improved considerably. The final peace terms had fallen somewhere between the Concordat's initial offer and humanity's ambitious counter-demands. Earth received full reparations and gained membership in the Concordat, though with a graduated voting structure that would increase with time. The Nalaxian leadership faced accountability not through punitive measures, but through a truth commission that exposed the strategic errors that had led to the conflict. More significant than the formal agreements was humanity's cultural and technological influence throughout Concordat space. Human colonies now thrived across 7 star systems, each implementing innovative approaches to governance and technology that attracted observers from across the galaxy. The exchange program has exceeded all projections, Veltron commented. We have waiting lists of young Concordat citizens hoping to study at your academies. What fascinated other species wasn't just humanity's technical achievements, but their problem-solving methodology. Where Concordat civilization had evolved towards specialized expertise and rigid efficiency, humans introduced cross-disciplinary approaches and encouraged creative failure as a path to innovation. The Council votes tomorrow on your educational reform proposal, Veltron added. The projection models suggest passage by a significant margin. Chen suppressed a smile. The proposal would transform how knowledge was shared throughout Concordat space, breaking down millennia of tradition that treated technological advancement as proprietary rather than collaborative. The vote would have been unthinkable 6 months ago, let alone 5 years earlier. Below them, the diplomatic plaza buzzed with activity as representatives from 32 species prepared for the upcoming Concordat Expansion Summit. 3 previously uncontacted civilizations would be welcomed into galactic society, following protocols that now incorporated human insights about cultural autonomy and development rights. There are still those who resist change, Veltron noted. The traditionalist faction grows increasingly vocal about human influence. Chen nodded. Progress is rarely unanimous, but the numbers speak for themselves. Concordat economic indicators are up 17%. Scientific breakthroughs have tripled. Cultural exchange has revitalized artistic traditions across multiple species. What she didn't mention was humanity's continuing military preparedness. Earth maintained its defensive capabilities and steadily expanded its fleet. Peace had been achieved, but humans remembered the lesson of first contact. The galaxy could be dangerous, and readiness remained essential. As the Proxima Centauri system came into view through the rotating observation window, Chen reflected on the colony that had been the turning point in the war. Now a thriving hub of interspecies commerce and research, Proxima exemplified humanity's approach to cosmic expansion, collaborative yet autonomous, peaceful yet prepared. Your species has a phrase that has entered common usage, Veltron said. The human approach. It refers to solutions that succeed through improvisation and cooperation when traditional methods fail. Chen smiled. We've been applying that approach since our earliest days on Earth. The galaxy just gave us a bigger canvas. As representatives gathered for the council session, Chen took her seat at the table, no longer an outsider, but a full participant in shaping galactic civilization. The conflict had ended, but humanity's journey had truly just begun. The universe, as the saying went among younger Concordat members, had been waiting for humans all along. They simply needed someone to show them what was possible when intelligence was matched with equal parts creativity and courage.